Normally I would say I'm a pretty insane person when it comes to my geological interests, but it appears I've been bested before I even knew the game was afoot. You see, I'm a pretty big fan of a not really well-known game called, Elder Scrolls V, Skyrim. But I've actually yet to actually complete the game because I keep getting distracted by foraging. I'm a lover of alchemy, what can I say? During my recent playthroughs, however, I was intrigued by the geological history of Monavin, better known as Throne of the World Mountain or Mount Hrothgar. Apparently, according to the creation kit, a tool that can be used to view and edit the game's data files, the summit of the Throne of the World is only 766.5 meters above sea level. At least, that's what it is according to the unofficial Elder Scrolls page, or UESP. On July 29, 2016, a Reddit user by the name of Topal the Pilot worked out the lore height of the mountain, which differs from the in-game elevation, by scaling the in-game height by the total number of steps, estimated around 730 to 750, as opposed to the lore 7,000, leading from Ivarstead to High Hrothgar, and estimated the elevation to be about 9.5 times the in-game height, or 7,212 meters above sea level. Compare this to Mount Everest's 8,848 meters above sea level, and you've got yourself quite the mountain for your Dragonborn to hike up. So you might be wondering, Chamanda, why the fuck do you care? Well, fine stranger. That brings me to today's mission, reconstructing the geological history of Skyrim's mountain range. Yeah. Before we can start, we'll have to get our facts straight. And by that, I mean we'll have to rewind the geologic clock a bit. Mountains are one of the most striking examples of a convergent plate boundary, particularly between continental tectonic plates. Though actually, continental oceanic boundaries can also form mountains, but we'll get into that tidbit later. Mount Everest formed as a result of the Indian plate colliding with the Eurasian plate an estimated 50 to 60 million years ago. Due to the low density, high buoyancy of both plates, neither could be subducted. So instead, the crust had to fold and fault thanks to compressional forces of the collision, thus creating the Himalayas and Tibetan Plateau as we know them today. With our understanding of the mechanics of mountain building in our back pocket, we can now look towards the game itself. Our first step for a geological survey is to obtain a map of Skyrim, courtesy of UESP, of course. We can zoom around, see the different features here and there, but this doesn't really help us geologically. No, we need a topographic map. Amanda, there's no way that there would just be a topographic map of Skyrim lying around on the internet. Wrong. October 15th, 2012. A user by the name of Tim Cook posted this straightforward shaded relief map of Skyrim in the Pavre News Forum. The map is squished about 10 times laterally and 10 times vertically exaggerated. So Skyrim's actually pretty flat compared to what one might think when first seeing this map. And additionally, on March 18th, 2013, the same user posted this topographic map on Nexus Mods, presumably after getting some help from user Samuel Benj on the aforementioned forum post with rendering contour lines. The final piece of the puzzle we need before actually starting our survey is this map of ore veins overlaid on Cook's relief map, plotted by geologist and artist Jane Robb, who actually did a geological analysis of Skyrim back in January of 2013, before mapping the deposits in May of 2013. I'm actually going to show a bit of her work in this video, but I won't be following exactly what she'd done and concluded. After all, where's the fun in regurgitating what y'all could just read in her EGU blog post? It's right there on the internet. Also, as useful as her blog posts are in getting a sense of the depositional environment of Skyrim, her first post geologic map differs drastically from the EGU blog post version. That's great for us, because that gives us two theories that we can eventually prove. Before we look at the exact tectonic history of Skyrim, let's start small. And by small, I mean big tectonic plate scale. Is Skyrim's topography the result of two continental plates colliding, or a continental and oceanic plate colliding? This is an easier question to answer because one of the things that defines an oceanic-continental boundary is the subduction of the oceanic plate due to differing densities. This would result in an oceanic trench, along with volcanic activity along the boundary. Seeing as there's only volcanic activity in Solstheim, which I'll get to later, and the occasional hot spring in Skyrim, it's likely that there might be some areas of rifting scattered towards the east, aptly named the Rift. But the sheer magnitude of the primary mountain belt along the south suggests that it was a continental-continental collision. Additionally, while we don't know what lies beyond the offshore of Skyrim, there doesn't seem to be any indication that there is an oceanic trench north of Tamriel. According to this shaded relief map, which shows us a bit further out into the coastline, there aren't any signs of a trench either. Then again, who's to say there isn't one further offshore? But of course, that's purely speculation. I say as if this isn't all speculation. For funsies, let's discuss the general depositional history of Skyrim. I've taken the liberty of using this ore map made by Leftover Pat on YouTube, whose video y'all should check out, it's very good, to determine the sequence stratigraphy of every rock layer based on ore deposits. Now, this turned out to be quite the pain in the ass, excuse my French, determining the elevations the deposits fell upon, because I don't actually have the original code that was used to create the contours. So I had to manually hand draw every single contour and then determine which deposits fell into each range of index contours, and then determine the index contours in general, because it's all seaward dipping, but you're not labeled on the original map. So I have to do that. What we get is this range of index contours, 10 to 80, really 1 to 8, but 10 to 80 make it easier to understand, with the interval between each being 6,350 units or 1,270 units per individual contour, since there's 5 contour lines per interval. Now that's a whole lot of hoo-ha just to say that I organized the map by elevation. From there, I highlighted the major contour intervals to get a sense of where ore deposits fell. And from there came up with this idealized depositional model based on various factors like ore deposit elevations, frequency of ore deposits in certain areas, and honestly, just what felt right when it came worse to worse. From this depositional history, I went back to the map and made an approximate outline of how the geological units lay on top of one another, and we get this monstrosity of a geological map, as well as these presumed faults and boundaries, which we'll have to verify later. To better understand what's going on, I've made some cross-sections and visualizations of certain parts of the map just to see what the rocks are doing in the subsurface. So here we have A to B, A prime to B prime, and this big chunk of the mountain that is plotted entirely in Visible Geology, which is a very good software. Highly recommend you all check out. Now that we have all the pieces, we can finally get to the fieldwork. To reiterate, we'll expect to find throughout Skyrim some minor volcanic activity, evidence of faulting, and possible folding. And it's off to the fun part, where we basically trek along the entirety of Skyrim in search of an outcrop to prove our hypotheses. Hooray. Hi, Chamanda here. So currently, I am unable to actually carry out the geological survey because I have been entrusted by the companions to, foraging, hunt down the silver hand and recover the fragments of Wuthrod. I have my buddy Vilcrus here. Vilcas. Sorry. Oh, there's a guy running up here. Oh, there's spiders over there. Okay. Yeah, Vilcas is helping us, and I can't really get rid of him. And hello? Anyways, Vilcas is coming with us because I can't really do a geological survey with someone that doesn't really know what they're doing, and that just won't do. So we're going to head on over. Hi, Chamanda here again. This time, I just got back from the rodeo. What I figured out about halfway through recording all of my geological talk and bullshit in the playthrough of Skyrim is that I've actually forgotten to record the video game audio. So, anyways, enjoy this footage, I guess, of me killing the entirety of the Silver Hand in my attempts to clear a pathway so that I could eventually go on to do my geological survey. And you know, it's kind of funny watching this back. I do just end up killing a bunch of people. And I do it again later when I'm at the Blackbriar household, which apparently is full of mercenaries, but I didn't know that going in, and I still killed them all anyways because I saw the red dot on my screen. And I was like, you know what? That's enough. That's enough fighting for today. I'm just a geologist after all. Traveling geologist. It's part of the job. Now that everyone's dead, we can get back to the actual geology. So one of the things we can really see when looking at the geology that's going on around Mount Hrothgar or Monavin is these sort of things. We see quite a few of them. Very nice sort of jutting out rock. That's perfect for a strike and dip. I would say that's about 45 degrees. So yeah, if we use the right-hand rule of strike and dip for geology, we'll put our fingers down here, and then our thumb is going to be pointing to the left. So that means the strike is north, and our dip is towards the east. So that's what we can say for this part right here in Iverstead. Now that we're in Riverwood, we can see there's another example of these sort of dipping stones. This time dipping downwards this way, which is about southwestish. And from there, if we put our hand down again and imagine where our thumb would be, it would be striking this way, which is south. So striking south and dipping westward, or southwestward. Same thing over here. Dipping this way. This is more south, which kind of makes sense. We should expect to find some more stuff over here that's dipping westward. One of the things I'm finding is that around this sort of perimeter of the bottom of this mountain, we can see a lot of these sort of angled rock formations, which again helps prove our hypothesis of the whole thrust fault being right here. And we can see that these are actually dipping more southward than we expected. But again, helps to prove our hypothesis of there being a thrust fault in general, which is always nice to see. But let's keep hunting for clues. Here we see another inclined sort of rock formation, this time dipping towards the mountain. I can't tell for certain, but it looks like there's some folding happening right here, which is very interesting. But again, kind of helps play into our whole thrust fault hypothesis, which again, very interesting. And actually helps us immensely when it comes to mapping where the thrust fault actually occurs. So far, what we've seen is that thrust fault follows around here from the Guardian Stone, follows about along this river, goes around here, eventually coming to this point. And we'll just have to walk around this area to see how that goes. But so far, it's looking like it follows the river, which would make sense for the existence of the river itself. But yeah, I'm very happy to have found a fold. Haven't seen one this entire time. Oh, there's a bit more fold, metamorphizing, but that's not a rock. Not yet. And I'm being attacked. Oh my god, guys, can we just fucking talk it out? I'm trying to... So, after being accosted by some vampires while on the road as a traveling geologist, it's always dangerous out here for us, you never know, I return. And this time, we see some interesting formations that are still very unweathered. So I think that says a lot about the age of this entire mountain belt. And again, there's more of these sort of slanted rocks, as this one is a lot less steeper. It's actually fairly level. Ah, here's some more. A bit more slanted. That's not a natural formation. I think that moose did it. Seeing as these nice giants are currently in possession of this entire area, I don't think we'll be able to do very much geological surveying here. So instead, we're going to travel along this area. And just go around them. Leave them be. Besides, who knows how much would it be anthropomorphic if they're giants? Let's go with that for now. Anthropomorphic effects on the general environment. Ah, here. Now we have some more interesting rock formations. There's also a waterfall here, which is very beautiful. But, as you can see, there are some slanted rocks again. This time, they're going this way, towards the mountain. So, I would presume that the thrust fault diverges from its original path by this river and actually follows around this one. Actually, it might be two branches of the same river. Not really sure. But we can say that it goes this way, which makes sense since there's more uplift over here than there is over here, and follows the general curvature of the mountain range. So that's promising. There appears to be some geothermal activity happening along this rift, I would say. We're right by Mistwatch, and this is around sort of the hot springs area. I think this is called the rift, unless it's further east? Not really sure. And man, look at all this geothermal activity. There's definitely volcanic activity happening here. That's good news for us because that really helps solidify the faulting side of our theory, which is towards this eastern boundary. I think I might be confident enough to say that this is a fault. Or at least the remnants of one. Just along this area. And I'm being attacked by a mountain tiger! A saber cat! Seeing as the hot springs and the rift in general want to kill me, I've taken the liberty of moving myself over to Kynes Grove. I'm actually modifying my theory. I have a theory that there is a main thrust belt that goes along this mountain range, this large one that has snow on it. Follows along here, goes around Mount Hrothgar, and instead of diverging over here, it actually wraps around this way and continues down here, kind of close to here. Can't even see what fort that is, but, you know, over there. And then wraps around this way and ends about here. Kind of wraps around right there. And this sort of uplift plateau that we see is actually a divergent boundary. So it's likely that this main thrust fault, which is a reverse fault, is the continental-continental collision. And then this here is an additional normal fault, which would explain the hot springs and sort of geothermal activity, as well as the faulting that shows where the steam's coming up. That's what my observations tell me so far. But we can go further down here to check the main fault line. After being so rudely accosted on the road by a Nord of all people, I'm going to continue my geological survey. So it appears that we are unable to go into Fort Dawnguard, which is the area we were left to. But we can continue looking around the area. Are you kidding me? Who the fuck is Breton? Why are you attacking me? Taking all your shit. Can't a girl be traveling geologist without all this hoo-ha? This hoo-hash. It was at this time that I stumbled upon the Blackbriar mercenary clan while doing my geological survey. It didn't go too well for them. I don't really know what I've stumbled into, but I've killed everyone in here, so anyone happen to know the particular geology of this region? And now there's a dragon. Oh my god. I guess I have to take care of this dragon. Okay, I took care of the dragon. Nice. Back to the survey. Ah, yes. We see a lot of thrust fault formations, such as this slanted rock, which is dipping southward right along this. So that makes sense for us that the main thrust belt is kind of going this way. Ah, we see some more slanted rock here. This way it is... Oh, so a bit further from the actual mountain that we would expect, so maybe around here where all these big rocks kind of lie. Dipping southward. Nice. Here we see this pretty brilliant piece of jutting rock. The actual mountain range is behind us, but it's dipping towards the mountain range, so it's dipping southward. Again, pretty neat. So that means the fault goes a bit further out. Actually, yeah, it goes out a bit further out. Might go towards Rorikstead just to see how far it reaches, and if it does. Well, there's not really anything here in Rorikstead, so I think our next course of action is to get over to Markarth. The moment I actually entered Markarth, I ended up seeing a woman get assassinated, which was interesting. That was crazy. Anyways, back to the geological survey. I think these sharply dipping rocks are most indicative of where the fault lies. So if it's right there, then we can say probably, again, kind of encompasses this river. Follows along here. All right, I think that concludes it for the main fault. And now we can follow along this normal fault. Oh, I'm not going to go towards the saber cats. Get away from me. Lots of volcanic activity from these hot springs, which is very good to see. What is that? That's a werewolf. That's a werewolf. Lots going on here in the hot springs. You would think it would just be hot springs. I probably shouldn't step in that. There's a lot of micro biomes that are happening in these sort of hot spring pools. Kind of like you would see at Yellowstone. Very delicate environments, though, but also very extreme environments, which makes them all the more interesting. See, this is what I was expecting from, a hot spring. How about I join y'all for a bit? Are y'all lovers or something worse? So my theory is that it starts over here, about where Lost Knife hideout is, and then continues east. Now, I might get jumped while I'm here. Or not. Might be in the clear. Oh, that's folding. That's folding. That's promising. And a bit of an unconformity, actually. Right there between those two layers. Seems to be a folding first here, and then a folding here. That occurred at two different times because this folding cuts off. And then this unconformity. Perfect. Right where we originally had the idea that it was going to be. I think that's solid fucking evidence. Excuse my French. I think that's solid evidence. Guys, this is huge. Oh, that's such a nice outcrop too. Oh my god. Oh my god. Hi, it's me again. So you're probably wondering, now that we have everything that we have, from the ore deposits, from looking at the map of Skyrim, to actual in-game sort of observations, what do we do with all that? Well, the only thing we can do is fix our geological map. Before we jump into the finalized map, here's the original map that we made, just to get a sense of where the context is of how our hypotheses have changed. And we see that mostly the continental collision sort of boundary is along the ore deposits. And the faulting towards the east, there's only one, which we'll see later hasn't changed much either. But the faulting is mostly by itself, it was mostly based on where Moonstone and Quicksilver fell on the depositional map. Now, onto the finalized map, where we see that there's a bit more sense of direction when it comes to where the boundary is for the collision, mostly because of what we've mapped, and the basin is a lot more, southward curving, and instead of the original continental boundary being across that sort of gold deposit, we have a normal fault instead. So what we've gathered today is that the general geology of Skyrim is the way it is because of a continental-continental collision, which resulted in a thrust fault or a reverse fault that created Mount Hrothgar or Monavan, created the mountain belt that Mount Hrothgar is a part of, and eventually some additional normal faulting resulted in the rift in eastern Skyrim, which leads to the hot springs and general volcanic activity that we see today. In terms of Solstheim, which I haven't really covered this entire time, because I don't really consider it a part of Skyrim, just since it's a bit offland. I think that mainly has to do with hotspot volcanism, kind of like Hawaii was created. I won't get too much into the details of that. That might be its own video. But in terms of mainland Skyrim, I think we're pretty set on the general history of it. And the big question now is, why does this matter? It doesn't. Bye.